Um, bum, bum. We're live,
Oh my goodness.
and now we look at other things live right now.
Now we tweet that we're live, so everybody watching live right now can see that we're tweeting. Except you shouldn't be on Twitter. You should be watching us right now and listening to our beautiful words.
I am tweeting, so that's why my face is staring at the computer screen awkwardly. I imagine I can edit
I could
this.
do a
We'll
little
edit this part of the audio out.
change.
That'll be fun.
Yeah.
Oh, there is a little Q&A thing. I'm gonna let you.
I can't control that. You have to click the Q&A and answer Q's and all that. I've just been invited here. I'm just a guest. I can't do anything. I
You're
can read
you're
the Google Doc.
you're a guest in my house, is what you are.
Exactly.
You're.
I love the curtains, sir.
Oh, thank you. My new home comes with terrible ceiling and even better curtains.
It's so beautiful. Just imagine if you're listening to this as a podcast. Just imagine beauty. Which
Um,
reminds me, I'm going to start recording on QuickTime
Recording, yes. I was going to do the same thing.
because
There's a little.
Jason and I are professionals. We record our audio locally and then send it to our wonderful engineer Adam Clark, and then he meshes magically, pushes it together, and it all sounds like we know what we're doing. When in fact,
Mhm.
Adam knows what he's doing. We're just the talkers.
We're just here pushing buttons. All right, I am starting my recording on QuickTime.
Good times.
I'm going to leave that there. Um, okay. Well, since we will probably edit out all of the stuff that we say before this, why don't we take a clean 5-second pause to have clear audio for Adam to work with, and then we can start after that.
This is another podcasting pro tip that we learned from Adam.
This is, all right, 5 seconds of awkward silence, and we start now. Okay, maybe it was longer than 5. I don't know, but
Maybe.
welcome to the Invisible Office Hours Season 2 final episode, and it's a Q and an A. I'm a J, and that's a P on the other side of the world screen. Whatever.
Scream. On the other side of the West Coast now.
Oh, I know. So yes, we have to do like a kind of an intro for this. Oh no, I guess we don't. Let's do that afterwards. We will do that afterwards. Bring people in. So let's just dive right in. I will man the Q&A here on Google+. So if anybody is watching through Google+, we won't be looking at the chat. We'll be looking at the question and answer box. So make sure to click that where it is that you see it, and then submit any questions that you have as we go along. I will let Paul handle our Google Doc, which has questions. And Paul, I'll let you go first.
The first question is from Rich. Hey, Rich. Thanks for tweeting where and how you were listening to the final episode of Season 2. I guess for anybody, if you want to tweet or Instagram and tag us how you're set up for listening to this live final episode, that would be cool. I'd like to see it. I'm not going to look at it now because we're doing this, but then afterwards we can both log in and look at them and then have fun. So the first question from Rich from Blue Stripe Creative says, freelancing or owning your own business can give you the opportunity to be more flexible. Many times I find myself being able to work from outside my office. When you are on the road traveling, what are the essentials that you bring in order to get work done outside the office, not including vacations? That's good. We were actually just talking about that because, Jason, you showed me your little bag of electronics that you bring with you when you travel. So you can start with an answer to that.
Normally, I'm in a much more professional-looking space. This is a La Quinta Inn, and the only reason why I'm actually giving them a shout-out is because my girlfriend and I, just for the past 4 days, drove cross-country. We only stayed at La Quinta Inn and Suites because they are pet-friendly, so our little pup Plaxico was able to come with us, and they've been great. They've been awesome. So, this background, not the best of the ones that I've stayed at, but I have to give them credit. But while I've been traveling, I'm going to try and pick this up and not cause trouble. I have a Rode mic. I don't want to move it much. So I have that. I have this little satchel of goodies, which has headphones, and my grandmother gave me this small Kevin USB device that is like a little jump drive, and then a bunch of other random odds and ends. And then I have my laptop, charging central, where all the things are plugged in, and really that's it. That's about it. How about you?
Same. I don't tend to travel for work, or at least I don't anymore. In my 20s, I traveled all the time for work, and I got sick of it. So now I don't really travel for work. So if I'm traveling for fun, I still need to bring my laptop because there's still things that need to happen for clients or things. There's sometimes are design emergencies, even though I always say there are no design emergencies. So I typically have my laptop with me and my mouse because I don't like the trackpad on MacBook Pros. I like the actual tactile feel of a mouse. I also always have my camera with me, and I mean, I do sell my photography, not very much though, and I don't really consider that a business, but I do always have my camera because if I'm traveling, I'm seeing stuff that I don't usually see, so I can take some of the photos, and I've usually got my 35 mil lens. 'Cause I have we both have Fuji X series cameras, and I have the EX2, and you have the TX or the XT1.
XT1, yeah.
Yeah, so I usually have when I'm traveling, I usually have my 35 mil lens on because all my other lenses are big, so that one just fits on the camera. It can sit kind of across my chest as I'm traveling and doing stuff, and it's always kind of there at the ready. That's about it. Laptop and camera.
Yeah, I have that camera, and I love the fact that I can take beautiful photos with it, but I use the iPhone. I mean, especially the iPhone 6, the camera is pretty solid, especially for just wanting to, we were on the side of the road, and we took a picture of me standing in front of a sign as we were getting close to San Diego, and, to get my camera out and get the lens cap off and then get the lighting right and do all that stuff, and it's so much easier just to swipe up on the iPhone and press take. So it depends, kind of on what I'm doing, but I do love taking quality photos while I'm on the road, and I think that's a fun thing to bring along. So let's move on to the next question because we do have a bunch that we want to get to. Who knows how long we're going to be on here? But if you're watching this live, feel free to use the Q&A app wherever that is on your screen. I don't know where that is. If you're listening to this recorded, that means nothing to you, but we just wanted to cater to the people who are listening. I have a question in Google Plus from Dyson. So Dyson asked, it's selecting the question. Please wait. There it goes. Who does the voiceover intro for your podcast? And I'll go ahead and take this one. We actually used a guy on Fiverr. So believe it or not, you can get some quality stuff from Fiverr. Most of it is not quality, but I have had two things be very successful for me on Fiverr. One, audio intros for podcasts. I found a random guy. I don't know who he is. I'm sorry, but if you just search for like the highest ranked people, they're usually pretty good. But I used it for this podcast and then used it again for the other podcast I do with my girlfriend Caroline, and it cost me a total of like $60 for both of them, which is weird because you think it would only be $5, but it's actually a little bit more. And then the other thing I bought was some guy who's an Excel wizard, like was able to create some sums and some weird things for me, and I don't understand Excel and math at all. So that's another great resource for Fiverr. So that is who does our voiceover intro, and I would check it out if you have any audio work. Fiverr is a great resource for that.
Or the maths. Say you have the maths.
Or if you want to do math voiceovers. I mean, that just like nailing it.
All right. That's $10 though, because that's $2.5 for answers. Second question, also from Rich. When is Paul going to produce a movie about vampire rats? If I knew how to make movies, that would be the first movie I would make, to be honest.
I think you're selling yourself short. We have all seen the creative class intro.
I had nothing to do with that video. I showed up and I talked a bunch, and they filmed me like swinging around in my chair and stuff like that. They were pros, and that's why I hired them to do the video.
I think you should make a short film about that because you have the woods, you have the Twilight complexion down to a science.
Exactly.
All right, we'll call that one good. We can move on to the next one. While you get the next question ready, I'm just going to remind people who are watching this live, the Bundle of Awesome expires at midnight, which is, I don't know what time zone we're actually choosing, but if you go to awesome.bumpsale.co, this is the last time you'll be able to buy it forever. We promise, pinky swear, all the things. It will never be available again for sale. So if you want to grab over $2,500 in courses, books, the online learning software, Teachery for a year, all that stuff can be received for less than $300 right now at awesome.bumpsale.co. Okay, Paul, go ahead.
Yes. The next question is from Beatrice. I'd love to know what community means for you. I joined MUUT team a few months ago, Moot team a few months ago, and listening to how our users are describing their communities. It could be an entire episode, what's going on among rec people. Well, it's just going to be a Q&A because I just read it out loud, but that is actually something that we could probably talk about further is communities, because I think both of us really, this is something we both spend a lot of time thinking about, and I think both of us can attribute the successes that we've had with the things we've done to the fact that we have communities and we have people that support us. So what's your take on this, Jason?
Yeah, I have a very love relationship. You know, most people say I have a love-hate relationship. I have a very love relationship, love, because I think community is so unbelievably important when you're building something. And, you know, I watched a community grow from nothing. I mean, I was a guy in 2008 who, you know, had a small web design company and was not on social media, even though that, you know, was just getting started anyway around that time. So I knew nothing about this, and I just dove headfirst into it. And you know, people started coming to my website, and people started emailing me, and then following me on social media sites, and all of a sudden I had a community, you know, with the I Wear Your Shirt business I created, and that community has some of it's gone away, some of it stayed with it, and I think for now, you know, community is, there's not really one central place. I don't feel like where communities are just being like knocked out of the park. I mean, I think Slack is doing a really good job, but I can't see using Slack for more than like 5 people in a group. I mean, I'm not a part of any groups like that, but I feel like it would be really hard to keep up with. I think Facebook communities, you know, private groups especially, are good, although, you know, some people don't want to be on Facebook, like Paul. But I do think community is extremely important. I use my email, really, my inbox as a place for community as well, because a lot of times people want to ask you stuff and they don't want other people to see it. You know, they want to just air something out, or they want to share something that they wouldn't feel comfortable sharing with anybody else. So, you know, as weird as it sounds, email is probably my biggest place of community right now, where at least I can get some one-to-one interaction, and then I can share stuff that I've learned from people there. So, long-winded answer. Sorry, Paul.
Yeah, that's fine, and I'm pretty much the same. Like, I feel like community exists beyond the networks that exist right now, because I feel that, like, a lot of people, like I use the term rat people for the people that pay attention to the thing I do. They are on, some are on my newsletter, some are on Twitter, some are on Instagram, some just read my stuff. So it's kind of, it's not one specific place, but we all connect and communicate with each other on the mediums that we do, and sometimes there's overlap, sometimes there isn't, but I think it's kind of moved beyond that. But for me as well, like, I think for any company or person that makes products or business or anything, email and newsletters are the best way to keep in touch with your community and to foster two-way dialogue. Because a lot of times newsletters are just blasting out, but I find, and Jason does this as well, like, the more that we elicit feedback and the more that we elicit communication from the people that get our newsletter, the stronger it becomes, the stronger that bond and that relationship in the community actually becomes.
No, that's I love that. I mean, I think, again, like, email has become a great way for me not to just broadcast, but to sit all day, and I think you do this on Sunday as well. Your email goes out, and then you sit and you reply all day long. So, all right, I'm going to move on to the next question, because we have a bunch of cues coming in through Google+, and I know you have a bunch, so I want to make sure we get to as many of these as possible. This one is from Byron, and Byron said, Paul, your design work uses very few logos. Seems like your strength is typography-based design. Can you talk about this?
So I'm not an illustrator. And I do a ton of branding work, but most of the branding work is light on the illustration. I don't have the talent that, like, Carolyn has with the drawing. So a lot of what I do and why people come to me is, yeah, exactly, it's for the typography and for the, like, light touches of design and illustration in the typography. It's really just a talent constraint on my end. If a client does need illustrations, then I will source that out to somebody like Carolyn or some of the other illustrators that I know. That's about it. I can't draw that good.
I think, Paul, you're selling yourself a little short, because I think about the logo for the creative class and Invisible Office Hours, and while those are very type, focused, I think they have a strong presence, But I do agree that it's also good to know when your strengths don't lie in something. Like, I was a designer. I mean, we have a very similar path if you've listened to previous episodes, where I grew up, doing design in the late 90s, and logos were the bane of my existence. I mean, just though I sit down and I look at, I have to do a logo concept, so I'm like, nope, not gonna do it. It's just gonna be terrible. So
Flash was the bane of my existence. We just want to have, like, these 18 things animate. It's like,
when sites still have the loading bar, when I get to them, I'm like, I'm out. Nope, I don't. Whatever you had on here, I'm not interested in. I am gone.
All I see is you need to load the latest version of Adobe Flash software, and I'm just like, okay, that's fine. Yeah. See you later.
All right, what do you got next in the Google Doc for us?
Next is a question from Jason. Hey, Jason. I was wondering if you guys could address the common notion that a jack of all trades is a master of none. I have found that being a jack of all trades with the ability to effectively delegate gives a leader more insight, wisdom, and empathy. I figure Paul could speak to it from his programming and design experiences. You could speak to that as well, because we both do so much different things, and I think you've answered your own question there, Jason. I think a lot of it comes down to knowing what you're good at and all of the different trades that you do and knowing when to delegate. Because the best part about leadership, or the strongest thing about leadership, is being able to delegate and trust that that delegation is going to work out.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of outsourcing your weaknesses. That's my thing. I've waited way too long to write a blog post about that, but it's absolutely something you should do. I mean, the things that you really don't like doing, you should absolutely delegate. And Jason, I can relate to this. I really don't feel like I have one strength. I don't think that I'm really great at one single thing. I know that I'm putting myself out there as like, oh, I'm the action-taking guy right now. I want to help people take action, but I don't even necessarily know that I can help teach that. I'm in the process of trying to learn if I can do that and create processes and systems, but I kind of find that I am a jack of all trades, and I embrace that, and then I just use that to my advantage and delegate and outsource just like you do. So, good question. Enjoyed that one. All right, let's take a look at a question from Justin Chick. Clicking the button. Justin said, can you talk to selling yourself without seeming like a slimy used car salesman while getting what you're worth? So we did talk about this, Justin, in our Selling Out episode, which was season 1? Is it in season 1?
So, yeah. Yeah, that was season. It was near the end of season 1.
We've just done so many episodes. But yeah, we go into detail on that, but really quickly, my thought on this, Justin, is that if you want the thing that you're selling more than you feel sleazy about selling it, then you should never feel like a sellout. And also for me, the phrase sellout really means if you take money for something that you don't actually enjoy doing, that to me that's selling out. That is why sleazy car salesmen get that title, because they don't want to sell people a 1994 Ford Taurus with torn seats and rusted paint. But they have to make money, and they have to be able to put food on the table. So you just really have to figure out, and I know this is one of Paul's favorite phrases that I say all the time, is just to draw your line in the sand. I want to sell this thing, and I don't feel bad about it, so don't feel like a sleazy car salesman. Be proud that whatever you're selling is giving people a lot of value.
And find the way that works for you to sell, because I'm not very comfortable a salesperson, but I'm a writer, so I sell by writing newsletters. Like, the newsletter for me drives pretty much all of my business right now, and I don't need to write a pitch every single Sunday. It would be a very boring newsletter if I did that. I just need to launch it with the pitch, and then every week I consistently provide value to my audience, to my rat people, and then they see a little link in the footer. Sometimes it's to the podcast, sometimes it's to my creative class, sometimes it's to something else. That drives sales because people see the value, they reciprocate after a while. And it doesn't need to be about like shouting into a bullhorn like, come and buy my stuff all the time right now. It can just be the way that you feel works the best for the way that you want to sell your product.
Love it. All right, I'm going to let you go from the Google Doc.
All right, so Angel Sullivan asks, have heard you both mention hustling a few times in the money episode, and either in this one or did you listen to this before we even recorded it? You have a time travel device. I want this time travel device. Starting again, because I got sidetracked in my own thoughts of nerdy stuff. Have heard you both mention hustling a few times, and though you may talk about it in a future episode I haven't heard yet, I'd love to hear more about what hustling means from each of you if possible, and maybe not just the actions you take, but the mindset behind them when you're in that mode. That's actually a good question, and that pretty much is the question that Justin just asked as well, right? Because selling is hustling.
Yeah, I mean, I think part of it for me is I think we all hear, especially on the internet, if you have an internet business, it's like you got to put in the work, you got to hustle, you got to like put in the hours. And I lived, ate, and breathed that, whatever the correct grammar is, I don't care. I think that there's a certain point now where I don't want to over hustle. I mean, I like working hard. Last night I probably spent 4 hours finishing up a course that I'm working on, and I didn't have to finish it all last night, but it was to the point where I was in the zone, I was in the mode, I was doing it, I was focused, I wasn't distracted by anything else. And so for me, that felt like a good time to hustle. That felt like a good time to push it forward and to maybe go a little bit further than I normally would have. And I was really tired, my eyes were tired, but I was like, I just want to get this thing done so that I don't have to think about it anymore. And I think that's when hustle is really great and really powerful for you, because we all get distracted by everything that's going on, all the things that are blinking at us and flashing at us and popping up. So if you can find those times when you're really getting things done, then you need to stick with it. You need to put in a little bit more time, push a little further. I think that's when hustle is really important.
Yeah, and I think like everybody, the what hustle means is different. Like when Gary Vee says hustle, he's talking about selling. When you and I talk about hustle, a lot of times we're talking about like getting work done. Like I do the same. Like if I'm trying to get something done or I'm kind of in the zone, then I'm going to hustle to get that done, and it could be a couple extra hours of working on it. But yeah, for selling, I don't really think that I hustle. Maybe in money I said something totally different. I have no idea. But yeah, when I'm thinking about it now, it's like the way that I sell is a bit more laid back, but then the way that I work is hustly. And I do that because I would rather do the work than focus on selling it hard. So I know that if I make the work as good as it possibly can be, then I don't have to hustle as much with the selling side of things.
I like it. Let's take Byron's question. Byron asked us, so many new media conferences to choose from. Your general thoughts on attending new media conferences? I'm going to let Paul take this one first.
I go to nothing. I don't go to conferences. It's just a personal choice. I know so many people that go to conferences. I think the benefit to conferences is you get to meet the weirdos that you spend all day talking to on the internet. I'm sure some people give good talks. I'm sure you give good talks when you give talks. But I think the benefit and the main reason why a lot of people go to these things, a lot of people go to like Misfit or WDS or something like that, is, yeah, the speakers are great, but you're going to meet the weirdos that you talk to on the internet all day. And if I wanted to do that more, I would go to some conferences. I don't feel like doing that right now, so I don't go to any conferences. You have a different perspective.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's what's so great about this stuff, right? Like the internet world, the conference world. I mean, any of that. You have a choice whether you want to go and you want to meet people that way, or you want to just collaborate and work online. We now have the ability to do that. I mean, this is such a crazy thing that we can sit on here. I'm in, Rancho Penasquitos, California. You're on an island somewhere in Canada, and we're broadcasting, talking at the same exact time with a bunch of other people watching, which is then getting recorded. Okay, I'm going to get too deep into all this, but it's amazing. And I think that if you can find a conference, Byron, that you really want to go to, where the speakers seem like they could give you a lot of value, the event itself is maybe around a business where you want to get some traction. I mean, I think trade shows, air quotes, get a bad rap, but I know so many businesses that actually do really, really well with trade shows, and if that's something that works for you, don't worry what other people think about it. I mean, make it work for you. So I speak at conferences, and I think that it's a great place to get my message out to people and to give them value. But I also think
I don't know if you guys can hear the crazy audio that just happened for Jason, but it is fixed now.
Uh-oh. Where did I leave off? Where did it cut?
So think.
Oh. Well,
I don't know if everybody else could hear that. That's what I could hear on my end. Ugh. But you weren't frozen. You weren't in like a max headroom loop. Only your audio was, which was weird.
I really hope it's fixed for everybody.
This is live.
If someone wants to just drop a question, we can get rid of it quickly. Is the audio fixed for you? While Paul asks another question, because I unplugged my mic and plugged it back in, so it should be good.
I typed in all caps in our Slack channel. Oh no! So Karen asks, you, Paul, me, confusing. I'll just keep reading the question instead of adding my own little crap in there. You, Paul, use a super inoffensive, uber hard to achieve lightbox or pop-up or whatever the fuck it's called. I'm just wondering what the plugin is, if it's a plugin. So what I use on my site is called an on-exit modal. So it triggers when somebody drags their cursor to the top, left or right. So it looks like they're going to close the browser, then the script says like, oh, no, wait a minute, here's a message. And I found that that really works to drive people to my mailing list. And I find that the quality of people that sign up for my mailing list, because that's really what I'm interested in, those people aren't more likely to unsubscribe. They're not less likely to buy stuff. They're not more likely to send me nasty crap. So what I use is something called WeBounce, which is on GitHub. So if you're a coder, and I know there's some coders that listen to this, you can grab it on Git. The other thing you can do is there's a WordPress plugin for it called WBounce, all one word, and that will let you basically paste in your code for your mailing list sign up into that, and it'll set up all the triggers for you. So that's what I use, and that's what I like. Uh-oh, some other people said they heard you on a loop in another Slack channel that I'm on.
I think it's good now because Donna left a little note that said all good now. So, all right, let's go to Byron asked another question that I think we can answer quickly. Is WordPress self-hosted website mandatory for my website or blog? And I'll quickly answer this and say, whatever platform works for you that you can get the best website or blog that you want, then that's great. If that's Squarespace, or if that's WordPress, or if that's Tumblr, or if that's no blog at all and you just use Twitter, I mean, whatever works best for you.
Yeah, I don't even use WordPress for my own site, and I'm a WordPress developer. I use a weird static file thing instead. Whatever works, whatever you're comfortable with, whatever's going to get you to go in there and add content on a regular basis is exactly what you should be using, regardless of what that tool is.
I like it. Let's go to Donna's question quickly. I'll let you queue up the next one. The two of you tend to be really good, and hello, Donna. The two of you tend to be really good at launching products once you have targeted what it is you want to do. What is the time factor? What is the time factor for one, starting an idea, and who do you bounce things off, and to thinking, planning throughout the actual launch day? So, I think what she's asking here is, how do you get the idea and make sure that you want to do it, and then thinking of planning through. So we definitely talked about this. There's an episode about launching in this season that we went over. But I think the product validation thing is something we haven't talked a lot about. We talked about it in the masterclass that we did a month ago. But it's really, I'll let you talk to this more, but I think you have to go to people who you think are going to be your potential audience and get their feedback early, and then you can move forward before you just make assumptions about it.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of basically have an idea, test that idea, iterate on it, and repeat. So think of something, and a lot of times the way that I make products now is I pay attention to what people are asking me, and I pay attention to what people are asking me consistently. Like different people asking me the same things starts to send a light bulb off in my head. Like, maybe there's something there. And then I don't think we really have a formula, because sometimes we do like a podcast, sometimes we do a course, sometimes we do a masterclass. I think for that, it just depends on what we feel like doing and what we think could provide the most value in the media, because there's so many mediums that you could use to get whatever it is out there. We both write books. We both have this podcast. Like it doesn't. So I think a lot of the times it comes down to just kind of picking what we think is going to work the best to provide the most value, and what we're both stoked on doing. Because I find the more that I'm interested and like actually jazzed up on what I'm producing as a product or launching, the more other people are going to be interested and jazzed up about whatever it is that I'm launching.
Yeah, I was just going to finish it off with like, what are you really excited about? And then build that thing and move forward. All right, I will let you pick the next question, but I will also give a shout out to awesome.bumpsale.co, because our bundle of awesome is leaving in just a couple hours as of recording this. If you're listening to this through iTunes or wherever else after we are live, you've already missed the boat. You can't get the bundle of awesome. But you can get it now. Quick commercial break. This was at awesome.bumpsale.co. Lots of good stuff. Okay, back to Paul with the next question.
Sue asks, hey Sue, there were 2 episodes this season that seemed polar opposite on the topic train. Can you guess what those 2 episodes are that were polar opposite before I ask the rest of the question?
Is it bad that I can't even remember more than like 3 episodes?
It was the zombie and vampire episode, was kind of polar opposite to the death episode. How do podcasts help you both process information on serious and non-serious topics? That's a good question. You go first.
Yeah, I think it's fun to push those boundaries. I think there are topics that we don't have a good platform to be able to discuss those. I mean, if anybody's tried to have a serious discussion about something on Facebook, it doesn't ever work. Twitter doesn't ever tend to have enough room to have a conversation about something. And I know podcasts are more like, it's not a two-way street, it's a one-way street, but at least when we're talking about it, we want to hear from people, so we ask them to email us, and people do. So it's a good outlet for us to be able to discuss some of these bigger topics, and I really enjoy doing that. And I also love, just as a complete aside, like, you guys have listened to a lot of our episodes of our podcast. We talk about what we want to talk about, and whatever you're creating, you should do the exact same thing. It doesn't matter if you talk about zombies and vampires, and then death, and then launching, and then that's all I can remember from this season.
Yeah, I think a lot of it comes down to, like, for us and topics, like this podcast is really, like, obviously we're trying to provide value to everybody that listens to it, but as well we're trying to explore things that we don't, like, we went into those episodes not having a clue where we were going to go with it. And I find, as a writer, it's kind of similar, right? Like, because I'll think of a topic, and I'm like, I don't even know what I think about that, but I'm just going to start writing. And it's the same with the podcast. It's like, I don't even know where we're going to take this topic, but let's see. Let's see. It'll be a journey for us, because it's a journey for the listener to listen to it. So it's a journey for us as well to see how it's going to go from beginning to end. And I think that's really why I like doing the podcast, because we don't have any, like, okay, here's the agenda for today, dude. Like, let's get on this. It's just like, what do you want to talk about? Let's talk about this. Do you know what you want to say? Let's hit record.
Yeah, no, I like that. Okay, let's move on to Kai's question. Kai asked, long-time listener, first-time caller, when is Paul going to shave his head?
Kai's in one of the Slack chats that I'm on. I think I was talking about my shaver, because they did actually shave my stubble off. I do have a shaved head sometimes. Sometimes when we're recording, I think at the beginning of this season, we both had about the same length hair. And you've cut your hair several times, and I have not. So
I'm proud of you. You know what? You've saved a lot of money on not getting haircuts.
I don't spend money on haircuts. I'm cheap. I have one of those clippers that I just, like, sit there and, like, shave my head myself.
Oh, man. Real professional, Paul. All right, next question.
All right, is this what I'm asking?
Yeah, go for it.
Okay. Ruth asks, one-on-one I'm great. Love building connections and can happily sell to people face-to-face. I know I can help. I also get great feedback and engagement from my blog posts and social media posts when they're not selling anything. The second I try to market something, it seems to fall flat. What tips do you have for growing your audience and building a connection en masse, as one-to-one is going to take a heck of a long time?
Yeah, it's a really good question. I think part of me would say, if you know that you're not getting through some of those channels and trying to sell through them, then try and find other channels. And if you're really finding that the one-to-one is working, I know that's hard to scale, but sometimes scaling doesn't happen. Sometimes you just have to figure out a way that you can sell something, and whatever way that is, you keep doing that until you can figure out a way to scale it. And maybe that means looking through the patterns of when you do these one-to-ones. What are the recurring things? What are the situations or the scenarios? And if it's really just based on who you are and your personality, then you just have to accept that. And you have to say, this is how I'm going to sell. It's not going to work through online. I just have to hustle, at certain times to make the sale happen and get it done.
The other thing is persistence. Like, people don't buy anything the first time they hear about something. And so a lot of people feel, and we know this because we sell a lot of stuff, and our stuff doesn't work a lot of the time. But for a lot of people starting out that are trying to sell their first online product or something like that, the first time you tell anybody about it, nobody's going to buy it. Maybe your mom and maybe your best friend are going to buy it. You need to be persistent with it. Like, if you look at our mailing lists or anything else that we do, it's over time things sell. Over, like, mentioning things like 6 or 7 times. And even with, if you look at either of our launch strategies, like, the first time we talk about selling something isn't the launch day. We've been talking about it for months. It's coming. It is going to happen. Here's a sneak peek of something. Here's a little glimpse on what we're building. It's going to be available. Maybe we'll drop a price. Maybe we won't. But, like, we're getting people ready for it, because nobody is going to buy something if they're surprised. They need to feel comfortable and confident that, oh, yeah, I knew this was coming. I'm excited that this is here now, kind of thing.
Let me give you a specific example on a course that I am launching tomorrow as of recording this, and I'm not even going to plug where that is, but I have tweeted about it 6 times. I have put it on Facebook twice. I have put it on Google Plus once. I have written a Medium article about it that has a link to it I have written an Inc. article about it that has a link to it. I mean, that alone is 10 to 12 mentions. Plus, I've mentioned it to my email list, I think 3 weeks in a row now that it's coming. So if people don't buy it after that, then I know that the thing I was trying to sell wasn't going to work. But I don't think that's going to happen, because I've gotten feedback from people that have said, oh, I'm interested in this. I also have a pre-launch sign-up that 150 people have opted into, and that number shouldn't blow you away or scare you. That's not an amazing amount of people, but it's enough for me that says some people are interested in this. I'm excited to get out in the world, and we'll see how it goes. And it has taken that much, and I would bet people listening to this are probably like, oh, I haven't seen that thing enough, and I follow Jason on all those channels. You know, you maybe have never heard of it. So I think that's a really interesting kind of live look into that.
Yeah, people don't pay attention as much as you think they do. So mentioning things multiple times is always a good idea. And you may even think, like, oh, Paul and Jason don't even talk about the stuff they launch that often. We do. You're just not paying attention to all of it, and that's fine, and we know this, and that's why we keep mentioning it many times.
And I know, Paul, you feel the same way, that sometimes we feel like we're overselling it. You know, it's like, oh, I've said this so many times. And then someone will go, I'm so glad you tweeted about this because I had no idea. And you're like, I've put it everywhere. So, okay, let's move on to Justin's question, and then we'll go back to the Google Doc. So Justin asked, do you tend to work on multiple projects at once or just one at a time, and why? I mean, I think we both have the same exact answer for this. We work on many projects at one time. We did a whole episode about this as well, not to keep referencing other episodes, but we both are big believers in side projects, which is where a lot of our bigger projects come from, because we kind of test them out, as we just mentioned, as little things and see if we really want to be working on them.
Yeah, our back catalog is delicious of podcast episodes. We don't even know what's in it, but it's good. It's full of good stuff. Yeah, I think that we get a lot of, like, everybody that listens to the show is a creative in some way, right? And I feel like you need to kind of have a bunch of stuff on the go, because sometimes it's like, I just need to work on writing, or I just need to work on design, or I just need to work on something else. You need to kind of, and then it kind of pushes you and drives you, I think, when you have, when all of your eggs aren't in one basket, and they're vegan eggs. They're made out of, like, hand-harvested chocolates with, like, cashew milk or butter or something like that.
Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, I think that my business years ago was just basically one revenue stream around that business, and now I probably have, I mean, I have a Google spreadsheet going that my girlfriend made for me, because I'm terrible at Excel spreadsheets and Google spreadsheets, but I have probably, like, 14 different streams of income right now, which is kind of crazy, but not many of them are big. You know, some of them are smaller or whatever, but all of them add up to you know, an amount of money per month that I'm really happy with, because it's not just one thing, and then I don't have to just hinge all my success on that one thing. So it's good to reference that. Okay, let's go back to the Google Doc.
Juliana asks, my issue with comparison, and we did an episode on comparison. So Juliana asks again, my issue with comparison doesn't only stem from a fear of other people being better than me, though. A lot of it stems from the fear that someone else, and there's a specific person in my life that I worry about, will take elements of my ideas and vision and apply them to what they're doing. And since I'm just at the beginning of my journey, I won't look as original as someone who has been doing it for a while. It's basically a fear of being copied before I get the chance to shine. I really want to be perceived as unique and have my voice heard as a unique one, and I don't know how to deal with the fear that this other person will somehow get all the opportunities to create the art that I want. Any advice?
Ooh, this is a tricky one. I mean, I think that a lot of people deal with this, you know, whether it's like imposter syndrome or comparison trap or any of those things. I mean, I think it definitely boils down to, I mean, I actually just had a conversation with my girlfriend Caroline about this today, and that there's this idea of, you know, giving credit and about owning a certain idea. And I think that the most important thing that you can do is to put your thing out there in the world and, you know, like, really believe in it yourself. And then if you do have a person that you are specifically worried about, reach out to them and have an honest conversation with them and let them know how you're feeling, because the other person may, and this is where I come into it, may think like, oh, I'm not, you know, I'm not stepping on their toes. When you're, like, smashing their toes with your giant size 16 feet, and you need to learn, like, hey, I'm messing up. You know, I need to figure out how to fix this for myself. And that's a conversation that you should probably have together. So I really think that you shouldn't worry necessarily about it outside of that circle, but especially if you know the person, you need to go direct to them. You need to talk and have an honest conversation with them.
Yeah, it's interesting how humans can be when you're human with them, right? But the other thing is, like, I don't know. I've had like everything that I've done has always been copied or ripped off or something. I don't care. Like people are always like, "Oh, well, what do you like? What do you think of this website that ripped you off?" And it's like, I don't care. Like it doesn't. I would rather be creating stuff than going after people. And I don't think that you can own ideas. Like I don't know specifically what she's asking about, obviously, but like I think ideas are bigger than any one person. It's just like my buddy Justin Jackson released a book on Product Hunt, and the very same day, another woman released a book about Product Hunt, like a few hours later. And it was just that he was just like, "Oh no, like what's going on?" And then so he called her. He called her on Skype. He recorded the conversation after asking her, and he put it on he put it on an episode of his podcast. So it's on Build and Launch. And it was just a good conversation. Like they both happened to be working on the same thing at the same time. It happens. They both saw sales from it. A lot of people bought, I think, both books because if you're interested in Product Hunt, you're going to buy a couple cheap like books. Like they weren't like hundreds of dollars or anything. So, yeah, I think I've never been worried about people copying me. I just would rather move forward than like go after that. So
Yeah,
I've never really cared.
I think that's a really good point, and I love the example of Justin Jackson because Julian, I think, was the person who asked, like, absolutely go and listen to buildandlaunch.net. I mean, anybody watching this should definitely listen to Justin's podcast. It's great. But that episode specifically is a fantastic way of seeing real life, reaching out to someone, talking to them. And then you do realize that both parties, had they not talked it out, probably would have butted heads on the internet. There would have been some smack talk. There would have been some hashtags thrown around. I don't know. But yeah, I think you can really nip that stuff in the bud if you just, again, like Paul said, get real human with it. Okay, let's jump to a question in the Google Plus machine from Dyson. Hello, Dyson. The Dyson asks, what software do you use for A/B testing? Paul?
Optimizely right now.
And do you do a lot of A/B testing?
No, I play with it though. I play with it for my clients. I play with it for some of my stuff. I also actually in my mailing list in MailChimp, you can A/B a few things. You can A/B the subject line, the time of day it goes out, and the sender name, which doesn't really make sense for us because like if I changed my name to like Inigo Montoya, like people may not open those emails. But
I would open it. I'd be like, wait, why is Inigo Montoya? Did I kill his father? Prepare to die? Like, what am I doing? Yeah, I don't A/B test anything at all, especially on the web, only because it's too difficult right now. I don't know if there's a really easy way to do it, but this brings up another topic for me that doesn't relate to Dyson's question, but I'm so excited for a product like the Grid to launch, and as a developer, we haven't talked about this, or a designer, or a person who builds websites for a living for people. I know the answer because I know you, but does that at all bother you that there's going to be something out there that like completely revolutionizes the way that websites are built?
No, I've signed up for an account. Like I want to see how it works too. Like I'm pretty excited for it. I don't even know what it's going to do, but I mean like there's always like some new revolutionary thing that's going to revolutionize Meerkat or something. Like it's just I don't know, the world just keeps kind of going the way that it goes, and things change. Like my job as a designer has changed a lot over like 17, 18 years. I keep up with it. There's still a demand for the work that I do, and I still get paid to do that. So I don't know. I may be like next year for season 3 or something. I may be like a Grid developer or something.
I hope so. I mean, because I can't wait for that. As someone who, I'm always outsourcing all of my design and development work because I haven't kept up with it. And I know, again, this goes back to the question I think Justin asked, but about like delegating, is that I just delegate all that stuff out and I focus on where my talents lie and that. So I'm excited for something like that. That's a complete aside. But yeah, we could definitely talk about that type of stuff in a season 3. If we do one, I don't know. All right, let's go for another question from the Google Doc.
So this is actually the last question from the Google Doc.
Okay.
Rich Bouchard asks, do either of you use a social media aid, i.e. Buffer, Hootsuite, or other? If so, which one and why?
I used to be, for some reason, against the native Twitter.com experience, specifically for Twitter, and I think that they eventually got it right, and then they bought Tweetbot, I think is who they bought, and all of their Well, they bought TweetDeck, but they also bought 8bits, the company who
Oh,
developed.
that's right. Yeah, they did.
Yeah, so I think all their designers and developers came in and made the experience better. So I go back to Twitter.com and I just use it. I mean, I have always looked at social media for me as a real-time experience. And listen, I've done consulting for businesses, and they're like, which service should we use to pre-populate our tweets and our messages? And my answer is always, what happens when you've pre-populated that tweet and something big happens in the world, and now your get you a 10% discount on our services is going on when there's like a major earthquake? Like, you look like the idiots of the internet, and I think social media is just too real time for that stuff. I mean, I know that people are busy and you want to, put that stuff out there. I would definitely look into Buffer. I think Buffer is, doing a really great job just as a business in general. But that's kind of my thought on using those types of things.
Yeah, I don't use anything either, and I played with I like all of these services. Like I like Hootsuite. They're a local Canadian company. The Buffer, I know a lot of people that work there. I think Buffer's great software. I don't need to. Like, I only really use Twitter. I schedule tweets in Twitter, in ads.twitter.com for free. You can schedule tweets. I schedule one article a day. If something bad in the world happens, then I'll just unschedule it, I guess, because I'll probably be on Twitter because that's where I get my news. So I'm not a big brand, right? So it's totally different for me, but that's really all I do. And then Twitter has amazing analytics right now. Like, you can see month by month and tweet by tweet what's going on, what's working, what's not. It's free. It's just on the Twitter. Like, you just go in and you look at these things. And that's part of, like, I wake up in the morning and I do some other stuff. We talked about routines, another episode. But after I do all of that stuff and I get on the computer, it's like, yeah, I check to see like what's performing, what's not performing, and I see if I need to tweak anything. And I can do that all in the native program. So, yeah, I don't use any of that stuff.
Shout out to Kai, who let me know that it was Tweety was the service that Twitter bought, which was what 8bits built. So thank you, Kai. And with that, we will take your next question. I have a couple more questions in Google+. If you're watching this, I think our plan was to be here for an hour. So if you have more questions, get them in. We have about 15 minutes or so left. And also, quick shout out, awesome.bumpsale.co. Bundle of Awesome is leaving. See how good I am at repeating these sales pitches? I don't feel bad because we're selling something that's awesome, and I want people to get it. So.
And I only paid attention to one of the 5 times you said it, so it's working. It's totally working.
I can't wait to get your sale in my inbox, Paul. Okay, so Kai asked a direct question to you, Paul. So I'm going to ask this in Kai's voice. This is how I imagine he sounds. Hello, Paul. How many recurring clients do you work with at a time, excluding your creative class folks? He's very regal, by the way.
He's a very regal gentleman. For web design clients, I currently work with 2 or 3 at a time, but that's only because I have things like the creative class and a lot of other products on the go. When I'm just doing client work, I usually have about 5 on the go, and it's spread out. Like, I could do these projects in probably a few weeks, but I spread out the work over a couple months because I know that sometimes creativity takes a bit of percolation. Sometimes on my end, on the client's end, spreads out, but right now I'm doing, it seems, 2 clients at any given time, plus my workload for writing and products seems to be a good fit because then I don't feel like I have too much on the go.
Cool. I like it. I actually am really excited for this question from Trey. Hello, Trey. Trey asked, what are your thoughts on companies with high valuation with 0 revenue? Sorry, just got in the chat. Hey, no worries. Get in here when you want. I think this is a really interesting question, and I just wrote an article about this, not to plug my own articles, but called The Gap in Entrepreneurship. And I've thought about this for a while, and that there is we've talked about this on previous episodes, as most things, but there's such a sensationalization of entrepreneurship when it comes to the Mark Zuckerbergs and Elon Musks of the world, and then the, Evan Spiegel's just getting started, never heard of Snapchat before. Like, people cover those 2 things. And Snapchat obviously now is like all crazy valuations with really weird revenue stuff, but the middle is completely missed, and there's a lot of companies in there that are just killing it financially, but they don't get talked about, and I think it's really interesting. And so I really believe that there is a huge issue right now with what's being talked about in our space, if you will, and that it gives people the hopes that you can just create anything and if it gets attention, you'll throw some money on it later, and it'll be successful. No, that doesn't work. What ends up happening is you rack up these enormous bills, or you take on debt through funding, and then nothing happens with your business, and you're left having to go get a job at like an advertising agency or something, and then you just aren't happy. And instead, I think people should really be building stuff that they want to build, that they think is providing value, and that there are opportunities to make money with it over time. I mean, I look at every single project I start. How is this going to, number one, bring value to people and put money in my bank account? Those are the two things that I really care about. And I know that I'm not building the next Twitter or the next Meerkat or Periscope, but sorry to have such a long-winded answer, Paul, but hey, this happens normally, so I just got to
Exactly. It's fine.
Yeah.
Miroscope.
I'm still waiting for someone to do a live video of a meerkat through a periscope. Like, I'm very
That would be
excited.
awesome. I would pay money to that. That would be a successful company from a financial standpoint. I don't know. For me, I find all of these these companies with these massive valuations are just received like $10 billion in Series A funding. They're not my world. Like, I don't. All the people that I talk to are like me. Like, we work on our projects alone or in a small team, typically that we farm work out to. We don't hire them as employees or just have one employee or something like that. And we build things from the ground up, and the growth is slow. And the products may do really well, but they do well over time. And they're not like doing well like millions and millions of dollars a day kind of thing, but they're doing well. And I think people just have a short attention span, or people are too young to remember. But like in 99 and 2000 or whenever the dot-com bubble burst, it was exactly the same thing. Like, I was working for so many clients that had like $500,000 or $1 million monthly burn rates. And they had no product even. It was 100% vaporware. And they had me on retainer to like for a lot of money to make all these graphics for these crazy things. And they didn't have anything. And like 2 months later, pretty much like it would always like 2 or 3 months would go by. The investors would pull out, that it would find another company to go work for. Same thing would happen all over again, and then the bubble burst. So I don't know. That was like 15 years ago now, so it's bound to. It's like due, I guess.
Yeah, it is. And I think it's, like there's, if you guys haven't heard the story of the Color app, go Google the Color app and read the story of it, because it's crazy. I mean, they had like $40 million in funding, and they could never get a product out that people gave a crap about. And that's amazing. I mean, to me, that's such a tremendous failure in the financial respect. And then, like, what could have been done with that money? And I get it that, on the other side of it, sure, something great could have happened, right? Like, you never know what Color could have stumbled upon or where those guys went next, and that's just all part of the process. But I think it just gives the wrong message to a young entrepreneur who wants to build something that you can get $40 million in funding. No. You absolutely can't, and you shouldn't go for that. You should go for exactly what Paul just said, to build something you actually really care about, and it takes a while and provides great growth. So,
plus, I know a lot of people that received funding and then their lives went to shit really, really fast, because investors are very, very in your face about what their money is doing and where it's going and where it shouldn't be going. So I don't know. That's why I like bootstrapping. Because it's like I'm the investor in my company, and I don't have a lot of money, so I have to figure out a way. Like, creativity thrives in constraints. So the less I have to work with, I feel the cooler I can make something. Because I can't give myself $1 million to build a product. I wish I could. Actually, no, I don't. I totally don't.
You would be such a jerk investor to yourself. You'd be like, "Where's my money, man? Where's my money, man?"
Yeah, seriously, I wouldn't know what to do. Like, if I gave myself if somebody gave me $1 million to build a product, I'd just be like, I don't know what to do. Like, I know how to build things the way that I build things, which is like starting from spending as little money. Like, my first book, I spent money on my domain name. That was it. I traded for everything else. And then the second book was funded by my first book. Third book was funded by my first 2 books. Onwards and onwards from there.
Yeah. Okay, this is actually the last question that we have in here. So we'll take this as the last question, and then we will close out with some messages. This is from Byron, and he said, "How do you capture and manage your ideas for existing work and potential new projects? I get millions of ideas and have too many capturing methods." Paul, how do you capture your ideas?
A plain text document. And I basically save it all in there. But then, as well, and I get this question a lot, so for things like building books or products, I typically, if I have more than one idea at the same time, I'll start on all of them. Like, if it's books, I'll write one chapter for 10 books. And pretty much I can see at that point, I don't want to write 9 of those 10 books. Or I'll write 5 of them, and it's like, that's all I have to say. This is now an article, not a book. And then I'm left with one thing. Or for products, I'll start building something, and it's like, I don't even want to do this, or this is an audience. This is not an audience I want to serve, or something like that. So I find that if I just spend a little bit of time building it, because ideas don't mean anything. Once you start executing them, you're going to learn a lot quicker if it's something that is going to work or not.
Yeah, I write them down as well. I typically use a journal, and I'm showing a journal. If you're listening to this recorded, it means nothing to you, but know that it's a beautiful cork journal that I bought on Amazon. I write them down as soon as I get them. I also use an app called Letterspace, which I have found really fun because it's just a markdown language app, not unlike what Paul would use. But yeah, I write them down, and I actually give myself time with them. So where, Paul, you might actually go into them, I try and separate myself from the idea for like a week. And if I can't stop thinking about that idea, or there's all these ideas, or I have all this energy for it, I'm like, okay, I think I need to move forward with this on the next step of building a small version of it, or getting product validation, or talking to other people about it in my trust circle. But if I don't, then I'm like, let's just leave it in the notebook, leave it in Letterspace, and then if I ever want to come back around to it, I will. But at least I've written it down, and I've captured it in one place where I can keep track of it. So I actually captured it in 2 places, but hey, that's okay. All right, Paul, let's talk about the elephant in the room. Do you want to have a season 3, or are we done forever?
I think we're gonna do season 3. I'm gonna do a season 3, so I would like you. I would like you to join me.
I am announcing my retirement, and I'm going to have Paul talk to himself about episodes, and I'm just going to listen.
I'm just going to switch back and forth. I can do the Kai voice when I'm talking to myself.
The regal Kai. I might just do like one episode where I do that voice for you. I think we both have a lot more that we want to talk about. We have a Google Doc that has a bunch of ideas. I think we probably have 8 or 9 ideas we didn't even get to this season, and I think hearing from people, even just in this Q&A episode, but on Twitter and everywhere else, and email, these things spark ideas for longer conversations that we want to have about certain things, and you guys can tell that we get really animated and excited to talk about some of them. So yeah, I love doing the podcast. I love the community that we built to circle back on one of the questions that was asked earlier. I mean, I think it's amazing that we have people watching this live that are going to be listening to this recorded, and I really am excited for us to just keep growing that and keep inspiring people who don't have a real job, or even if you do, but you want to be doing more creative stuff, or if you want to be doing your own thing and your own entrepreneurial journey.
I was hoping that you actually bought me an elephant and surprised me with it, and then it was just like magically like standing right there in the room. That would be the best thing ever.
I'm going to mail you an elephant piñata that you can put up, so at any time you can bash that sucker and get some vegan candy out of it.
There's not an elephant in the room anymore.
Yeah. So yeah, I would say for all the people listening to this, we will do a season 3. I don't know if there's necessarily a time frame that we could commit to on it, but I would say definitely this year. Later on this year, probably fall-ish would be a good time to
sweeps. Podcast sweeps. Yeah.
Around sweeps time. Yeah. So I've had a lot of fun. I want to thank everybody for continuing to tune in every single week, to continuing to share their thoughts, and whether that's through email or Twitter or wherever else you guys share thoughts with us. It is really fun to know that we can talk about this stuff and really dig into some of the real creative entrepreneurial issues and topics, and not just talk about all the successful things and all the this is such a great thing, but really say like, no, like this stuff kind of sucks, this stuff's really hard, and that we all go through it and we all have to deal with it.
Yeah, I'm glad that you guys like us for the imperfect, the very imperfect in my case, people that we are, and you're with us for we don't even know what, because we start and we just kind of are honest with our conversations. It's 2 guys talking. That was the scratched like podcast name, 2 guys talking.
And then we just talked about talking.
Exactly. Got you.
So we'll just, if you want to stay up to date on when the next season will happen, you can follow the @InvisibleOH Twitter account, or sign up for our email updates at invisibleofficehours.com. And just a big thank you to everybody who tuned in for this and who listened to this season and who has gone back to listen to episodes from season 1. We look forward to continuing to fill your ears with our words.
Exactly. The bundle of awesome, if you're listening live, is available for, I think, 3 more hours. You can, if you enjoy our witty banter, you can leave us a review on the iTunes. What else? You mentioned the mailing list.
Yes.
That's about it. Really, I'm just happy. Like I really enjoy doing this. I wouldn't do it. Same with you. We wouldn't do this if we didn't enjoy doing it. Wouldn't do it if we didn't enjoy interacting with all the people that like to listen to it. So, yeah, thank you for making this possible. It's all you guys.
It absolutely is. So with that, I'm going to click this little stop broadcast button, but we're going to roll this episode out with our last outro of this season 2, and then we'll see you guys, or you'll hear us in a couple months.
Bye.
Bye.